system, the way we attach it.
Not bad.
You know, we talk about oxbows.
Fish at high tide, because there might be something like this behind you.
Phil Dance style. Spinning rod behind the head, fish in a boat. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
There we go. Hey, what's up guys? Nick the Informative Fisherman here, and today we're back out with Andy Kachia.
We are at it again, Nick.
We're at it again. So I called up Andy and I said, I get a lot of questions about fishing low tide on the Delta or offshore, because guys are so uncomfortable when that water pulls out away from the bank and you don't see nothing. Well, Andy excels at this offshore stuff, and what I mean by offshore is fishing that grass that's not visual. You know, you're not fishing a visual target. You're fishing humps, you're fishing grass clumps and grass mats, drop-offs, edges, kind of things like that, the not obvious stuff. You know, on the lakes all the time we're looking at our graph and we're looking at this stuff, but when you get to the Delta, you have so many awesome visual targets, but when that tide drops out, you got all these guys, even experienced guys, that constantly chase the tide. And you guys know me, I'm normally fishing out of our chase boat that's slow, so I don't chase the tide. I love that same sort of thing, and Andy's always talking about, well, how come they're not, why are they chasing tides all over the place? I don't want to be spending that much fuel. So today we're going to break it down for you, how to get some fish in the boat on those tides and look for some offshore targets. We're fighting the wind right now. It's what, 8 a.m. in the morning, 25-mile-an-hour wind.
So, you know, it's been a typical spring, you know, it's been like 2004, all through April we've had the wind and we have to fight it, and you know, that's part of the conditions.
Oh yeah.
That's part of
how it goes.
Getting out here and fishing the Delta, and you know, as much as we want to get out there and show you guys how that offshore stuff, it's going to be tough on us, but we're also going to move in. We've made some snap decisions, like what you have to do out here, is we've got to fish according to how this wind is playing with us today, and we're going to go out there and do that and put some fish in the boat and hopefully give you guys some great tips.
Well, let's go get them.
Let's go, man.
First fish of the morning. Just dragging a worm. Believe it or not, I'm actually fishing weightless. 15 to 20 mile an hour wind, fishing a weightless worm. And on 20-pound fluorocarbon too, fishing that 100% P-line fluorocarbon. One of the keys, if you're gonna fish in the wind, you know, you either have to have weight to adjust, you gotta position the boat right, but one of the benefits about fluorocarbon, once you get it out, let's say you pitch it up, you can bury your line and it's dense, so it starts to sink. And if you keep your rod tip against the water or under, the wind's not playing nearly as much of a role. Out here on the Delta, we still have the current, but you know, you can just move your rod and feel and detect that fish because the low stretch. So that's one of the reasons a lot of the time when on the windy days, I'm gonna fish fluorocarbon if I got the choice. Luckily, I already had it spooled on. So it's still a lot easier for me to fish with because the wind dictates a lot less movement on the line versus like a monofilament that would float, or a braid that also floats that could catch a lot of wind as well.
Plus, when you got that fluorocarbon on there, it's such a sensitive line. When you've got that slack in that line, you're gonna feel that tick. It's gonna telepath
it's
all
a lot
the way
like,
up that fluorocarbon.
Telepath, and just like Andy's saying, even when you have a bow in your line, you think you're not feeling it, you'll still feel a ping, even with a bow in your line, and you're like, wow, it's amazing. If you've never fished fluorocarbon, it's definitely something you gotta try. It's a little bit more dense, a little harder to work with, but the reward, the bite ratio tends to go up a little bit, the sensitivity's up. Good all-around line choice too.
Okay, so what we've done this morning, we got this big falling tide, and normally we're here in Little Franks. We come onto this west bank where we're protected from the wind. You can see out behind us, we got whitecaps right here in, you know, 1.5 to 2 footers right here in the middle of Little Franks. But you got these fish that have been moving in and out of these tules. And as that tide falls out, where most guys like to get up there and throw up real shallow, we're focusing more on the outside, little holes in the pockets, points where the tules form these little points where these fish are going to be setting up in this ambush. Whereas this tide's falling, they're forced to have to pull out of there. Not only that, you've got a little rocking and rolling, and if you've got fish that are up there trying to bed, when it's shallow and rocking and rolling like this, that buck's going to stay up there. those bigger females are going to pull out, and they're going to set up next to these heavy, thick cover points right along the outer edges. So we're staying out here further out off the bank. We've got some grass beds. It's real stained and hard to see the grass beds right now, so we're kind of having to blind cast, but at least we got the visible targets where we can see these little pockets and tule points. Nick got the one earlier, and we've had several little pickups. We got a little temperature drop today. Our water temperature is only 65 degrees in here right now, so it's kind of got them a little tight-lipped at the moment, but we're just going to keep plugging away and see what we get out of this outside tule grove here.
Right at the boat, you see that?
Right on that outer edge.
Right on the outer edge. Right there on the vibrating jig. A whopping bass. Came up and ate it right at the boat. I had a bass chasing my worm earlier. Now it's so windy, trying to control a worm in here, it's been kind of tough. So now we're throwing a vibrating jig. Andy's throwing a claymore up there. Bringing it through, bumping into tules, trying to cause some reaction strikes and see if those bigger fish are still sitting in here. Andy was on them. They're just not wanting to go on the worm right now, but we're gonna try to force feed them, get them to react to something vibrating coming fast right by their face. Oh yeah, there we go. Hooked up on the claymore. Oh yeah. Can you put her right here on my toe, Mr. Kachia? Put her on my toe. Oh yeah, right there.
There you go. How
Look
close
at
is that to your toe? Chunky 4.5.
Yeah, nice one. Oh, slammed it too. Yeah, a lot of the time when you're coming through here, you're fishing a worm and stuff, when you have a sudden condition change, and it got real cold last night, real hard wind.
Temperature drop in here about 4 degrees.
And they're not wanting to actively feed, a reaction bait coming through there, slamming that thing into tules, force that fish to come and get it. She couldn't help herself. She wanted to munch that sucker down.
Hang with us, guys. We'll be right back. Did you know that P-Line makes specialized lines for all your fishing needs, from the super strong abrasive resistant CXX or the low stretch super stealthy CX Premium, or maybe you're looking for invisibility or super bite detection with P-Line's 100% fluorocarbon. No matter what your needs, P-Line's got it covered. To find out more, visit P-Line.com.
P-Line, baby.
Ever tried pulling a planer board next to your boat when trolling or fishing from a swift current bank? If not, you're missing out on one of the most phenomenal fish catching machines on the market today. With Yellowbird planer boards pulling your lines perpendicular to your boat, you can't help but catch more fish. Find out more by visiting www.yellowbirdproducts.com. Attention all anglers, it's time to start displaying your weapons of big fish destruction in style. With the coolest rod racks to ever to hit the market, the 916 Rod Rack. Don't be caught slipping stacking your expensive gear in the corner. Treat those babies with the love that they deserve. From upright racks to ceiling mounts to wall mounts, they got you covered. So don't go wrong, guys. Get yourself a 916 Rod Rack. I'm taking these, bro. Attention Northern California anglers, have you been to Boat Country in Escalon? With one of the largest selections of welded aluminum fishing boats from Weldcraft, Lowe, and Hughescraft, chances are they've got the right fishing boat for you. And did I mention they have a full service center to take care of all your boating repair and maintenance needs? If you're a boat owner or just looking to become one, you owe it to yourself to check these guys out. Visit BoatCountryUSA.com or stop on by. I'll see you there.
Like Nick said, we made a little change up, start throwing some reaction baits. That those vibrating jigs work real good. I take my standard water jig. This is the Dragonfly, black with some brown and blue and green in it. And ours, we've got a little unique system the way we attach it. We use 2 split rings, and then we put the blade on top. And I'm fishing a Yamamoto, one of the new hardtail swim baits as a trailer. Most guys like using the swimming Senko, and now Yamamoto's come out with this new hardtail, and it's actually improved, gives you a little bit more bulk, nice big chunky thing. And that little hardtail swim, that thing just paddles real tight together, and fish eat it real good. And boy, I think we might have to go through that area where we were just starting at, where we got all those bites, and see if we can't trigger some more. We're gonna go down the outer edge. We're staying way out. You can see up here in the bank where, you know, we're a good 80, 100 feet off the shore, where most of these fish are gonna be up in there spawning. With this tide pulling out and this wind blowing, they're pulling out and they're tucking in real close to these heavy clumps, and we're just gonna keep chucking away from the outside and see what we can do to get some more of those. Another big one. Oh, about a 7-pounder.
Yeah, that was one's close, right around 7.
Got it.
There we go. Not bad. Not bad.
Adjustment. These offshore little patches.
Look how light color this guy is. It's that dirty, dirty water. Oh, these are trocar, man. Jeez. There we go. A little 2-pounder. Not bad. Just dragging that weightless Texas rig. What do you call that plant, Andy? That leafy stuff.
Got one from the water there.
Yeah.
That's duckweed.
That's the duckweed right there?
Yeah, that little submerged stuff that'll eventually be a...
It's a leafy, had a root.
It'll be a canopy. You can see how it's starting to grow in different areas here.
Yeah, we'll get you a close-up on that. Andy threw next to it, got ticked. I threw it right back there, just let it sit until he picked it up and left with it. But the interesting part about this stuff is it's suspended out off of the bank right here, and you got these big flats coming in. It's high tide right now,
About halfway.
It's about halfway, it's getting there. But the nice part is the fish can pull up on this outside stuff first before they have enough water over their head to feel comfortable to move in. So since it's halfway up, this is kind of a flat back in here, you can look over here and you can see Andy's fishing this stuff. And this is a transition area for them. They can move from that deeper water, transition right onto it, then on that higher tide they can move in there when they're a little bit more comfortable, but that's more than likely their first path. That's the door they're gonna go through right there.
That's where they're gonna stock.
Yep.
When they come in from out in the deeper zone, they hit that first cover. You know, it's like if you're fishing Mildred or little Mandeville or little Franks where they've got all those tree rims out there, those fish move in, they hit those trees and they stop.
Yep, it's just in one of those little stomping grounds. They just stop there as it goes up, they keep going. It's just a little pass, it's like a stairway down. Tide's dropping out, they stairway all the way down. Once this tide gets lower too, we'll show you the outside stuff. The tide's coming up, they're gonna follow it in. That's why when we were talking about when the tide drops out, you see everybody run away from their common spots that they fish. But realistically, those fish are still there. They're just moving out deeper, and you have to promise yourself that you're gonna spend the time to learn how to try to fish for those
You've got to commit to it. If you don't commit to it and never give them the opportunity, you never catch one, so you don't build the confidence to keep doing it.
Yeah, if you don't have the confidence, you lack that tool. And committing to do it. And one of the things I've done to actually train myself is I'll take like a 5-inch Senko or worm or a drop shot, something I'm gonna get bit on a lot, and I'll fish that offshore. And it's not necessarily that I'm gonna get a big fish doing that. I'm trying to get bit often to give myself the confidence to keep fishing that deeper offshore stuff. And I've got a couple of spots that I've really done that, spend a lot of time worming outside, and I've developed great confidence to fish a bigger bait in those, and I'm talking 14, 15 foot of water off the main river, strictly because I've caught fish on the bank there before. So I said on low tide, I'm gonna commit to that outside deep stuff.
So here's a prime example of exactly what I'm talking about. I went out, bottom of the tide, slick calm, no wind, bright and sunny, tough conditions. I'm looking for pre and post spawn areas, transitioning points. A lot of people look right around the mouths of the flats. You can see Buckley Cove off in the distance behind me. I was targeting the mouths of that and all the way across the river from that, looking for that deep grass off those banks. I go around the bank looking for forage, looking for bluegill beds, looking for gravel, looking for toolies, things that would normally hold bass where I've caught them in that area before, and then I'll pull out to that deeper grass. I have the boat about 100 foot off the bank here, and I'm casting in at a 15, 20 foot on that weightless worm, 4/0 EWG with a 5-inch Ocho, and just slowly dragging it through that grass and still producing quality fish. Hang with us, guys. We'll be right back. Been thinking about trying out kayak fishing or already into it and just want some sick upgrades for your rig? It's time to check out the Headwaters Kayak Shop. Come pick the brains of their knowledgeable staff and make sure to ask about their awesome demo program to find the right kayak for you. Or stop in and rent one with Lodi Lake right down the street. The Headwaters Kayak Shop fits all your yakking needs. Tell them If sent you. Have you been to rustylures.com? Did you know they offer free shipping on anything over $29.99? And with all the latest and greatest in bass fishing gear, from punching tackle, umbrella rigs, swim baits, and you name it, there's really no reason for you not to be getting the best deal online today. So go to www.rustylures.com. Did you ever wish for an RC boat when you were a kid? And do you have a passion for fishing? Well, guess what? It's time to do them both at the same time. With RCFishingWorld.com's RC Fishing Pole, it's time to be a kid again. So visit www.rcfishingworld.com today.
You see it all over the river right now, especially in the flooded ponds, where it's just starting to come up, where it's a foot below the surface, and then you get little small patches. A lot of times when you get the big canopies like what we have up across the back of this corner, you'll see them, they'll come out in little straight, they'll be right on the edge. And bass love to get around and suspend right around these patches. You can see here we've got 3 or 4 of them out here in the middle, and that Senko, we're throwing that drop shot right down in there around the base of those plants where those fish are setting up. We get this little cold snap, this wind that we had some reaction fish going earlier, and then because of the coldness, I mean, it's gotten a lot colder today, these fish have kind of shut down a little bit on that reaction bite, and so we've made an adjustment to get offshore a little bit, get into some of these plant canopies where they're easily targeted and they're not getting with the wave action that we got trying to fish up against the tules and so forth, where fish are trying to spawn. They kind of move out of there when it's rocking and rolling like it is, and so we moved into a little, oh, I just got bit right there. He's not going to eat it. Come on, eat it for the camera. So we just come out and poke around and fish the outer edges in areas, you know, we've got areas in here where fish are definitely spawning, but because of that shallow rocking and rolling, they've moved out. So, and these are the kind of places you got to come out and look for. And a lot of this, you know, guys look and they see, you know, in Frank's track where guys are 200, 300, 400 yards out in the middle of the track, way offshore, and what they found out there are similar situations, but they're more like humps. You get these 8-9 foot areas, and then you get this little 3 to 4 foot island. These fish will pull way off the bank, and then they go out there and sit on it, and that's what you see those guys fishing out there, those isolated humps and peat mounds. In these areas, they don't completely vacate these areas. What they're going to do is they're going to move out to that nearest deep water. Now, in a pond like this, we're sitting here in 6 foot of water out here off this canopy, and that's the deep water for those fish in this pond. When they've got 2, 3, 4 foot where they're spawning, they only need to come out to 4 to 6, maybe 7 to be their deep water zone. Whereas when you're on Thule Islands, backside of Thule Islands and oxbows, and you're up fishing the flats on the island, and that flat is 15, 20 feet long off the island, it comes off, and then you have that ledge and drop off into 10, 12, 14. That's their deep water in that particular area. You've got that bigger drop, whereas in here, 5, 6 foot's deep water. So it's real relative to the area that you're fishing, not just necessarily, you know, you think of a lake and you think deep. Most of us Californians think 25, 30 feet is deep. Here on the river, most guys, you know, they're up fishing in 0 to 6, and if they're in 6 foot, that's deep. And in the springtime, that deep, that 6 to 7 foot range can be a heavy target zone when you get these cold snaps where these fish will pull off the bank. The bucks will stay up there, but those better quality fish are going to pull outside.
So as you can see, Andy's fishing more of this duckweed right here. We're out here in a big island, you know, the lakes on the ponds on the delta, like Mildred, Franks, and Mandeville, you know, name a few. Then you can look over here, we got the bank over here. Tules, high tide, high water, you know, you can get up here and fish for these fish right here, But what's gonna happen when the water pulls out right here and you're going down the bank? You see a lot of stuff out here. You see some little sparse toolies out here. Sure, if there's water on these, they may pull out here and you can fish that stuff. But when you're going down and it's low tide or you're catching fish at high tide, pay attention to where you catch those fish at high tide, because there might be something like this behind you with a big fish on it at the same time. There we go, baby. In the thicket. Yeah. Andy's hooked up on the drop shot in there. He doesn't only fish jigs, folks.
Bill Dance style. Spinning rod behind the head, fish in a boat.
There you
Look at
go.
that. Drop shot. Solid, chunky 3.5 pounder.
Yeah, real thick. Short fish, but thick.
Throwing
See,
that 7-inch robo.
and just like this, because we're trying to do more offshore for you, we have a high tide right now, which is gonna spread the fish, the majority of the fish up there on the bank. But we're still specifically targeting.
We're targeting it,
outside.
as you can see by looking at that fish right there. That's a pre-spawner.
Yep.
That's a fish that's not up there in the shallow. She's out there in about 7-8 foot of weed. And, you know, weather's not right, conditions are right for her to move up. She's a part of that second, third wave. And this is the kind of secondary offshore structure that these fish are going to be sitting in.
And it's perfect. You look around here, this stuff right here, you can look for a couple hundred yards, you don't see it. So more than likely when this water pulls out, if these fish are looking for a comfort zone, they're gonna pull right out into this stuff. This is key cover for you to pay attention to. This is one of those offshore delta things. You know, we may have a lift in the bottom, there might be a little hump right there, and that's why you see this duckweed up on the surface. That could be anywhere out on this whole island right here.
Yeah,
could be anywhere.
This particular flooded pond, all the way around, you've got a big flat that comes out. And it's one of the ones where it's got that drastic drop off. Earlier we talked about the depth being relative. Here, you've got that big flat that comes out that's 3, 4, 5 foot, and all of a sudden, bang, it goes into 12, 13, 14 foot of water. But it's 40, 50 feet off the bank. And that's what this stuff is sitting right up on top of that edge. It's in about 8, 9 foot of water, and those fish will just pull up off that drop and they just sit there. Okay, what we're looking at here, a lot of guys, you know, we talk about oxbows. We got them on all river systems, and basically what an oxbow is, this is a picture on a graph of the main San Joaquin River here. And what an oxbow is an oxbow is a cut that comes off that main river, loops around an island, comes around back, and dumps back into it. We've got Spud and Hog Island here out off the main San Joaquin. You can see on the backside, you've got it comes in, it rolls back around, and it comes in here. These are great areas for fish during the spawn that come in off that main San Joaquin River. They're areas that they migrate to out of the deep water channels where they spend all summer and winter, and then they come back in here to spawn. And you can see when we zoom in on this area, you can see the blue area all through here are the shallows where these fish are going to be spawning. And from where that flat is at 4 to 5 foot, the first drop off to 10 foot is where that first line is right there. So what you've got is when you've got those fish are up spawning and the high tide is up there, you want to be upside fishing inside. But if you get a cold front and those fish back off, or when that tide falls out and it starts to get too shallow, those fish are going to pull off to the outer edge of those weeds and to that big drop off that's out here all down around the outer edges. And it's kind of cool when the tide falls out, especially you can see where that, if you don't have a graph, you can certainly see by the weed line where that drop off is. It's real important that when you're not getting bit up shallow in the springtime, post spawn or whatever, because remember, not only do you have fish that are pulling off of here because of weather conditions and they're uncomfortable being up shallow, you've also got that next wave of pre-spawners that are sitting out here staging. So there's always a large group of fish out here, and if you're not able to catch them up here, you can fall and back out to these outer edges and fish the drop-offs. Now you may have 5 or 6 foot and it may only drop to 10, or in the case of this one it drops out to 16 or 14. It doesn't really matter in picking one versus the other. It's understanding that that drop off to that deep water zone and that oxbow where it is located, and back off to fishing it. Now the cool thing about a lot of these when I'm looking for them is because the wind comes in from the west and the north, I'm always picking areas that are going to be blocked from that north and west wind. Now this particular island, because of the high levee wall on the backside, around this backside, it really protects this wind. So even though the wind is kind of blowing in, it blows over the top of this island and it's actually quite easy to fish. Whereas if you're on the backside, over on the backside, you've got complete protection all down around the backside here, and in here you've even got some ponds that you can roll into as well. But you can see when you go back over to this other side and zoom in, it's got the same conditions. It's got the shallow flats all up around the inside, and then it's got those deeper drop-off areas. That's where those fish are pulling out to, and when you're not catching them up here, there's only one place they can be, and that's out in deep water. If they're not up here, they're out here in deep water. And a lot of times when you find fish up here, you've got additional fish that are out behind you in that deeper zone. Those fish are actually a lot easier to catch than the ones up front, because everybody's pounding the bank. Everybody's boat's sitting up on them. Those fish are spawning, they're preoccupied, whereas when you've got these fish out here, most of the time these are aggressive feeders, neutral fish that you can catch with a drop shot. You can catch with a jig. You can throw Senkos and fish real slow way out there. You've even got some nice grass beds. You can pick up your punch rig and you flip that punch rig right into the edge of that grass, right at the drop off. You'll be surprised. I've talked about it before, guys. It gets a little confusing when you hear these tournament anglers say they're out there punching. A lot of times what they're doing is they're using their punch rigs, and all they're doing is they're flipping the grass that's out on the outer edge to that drop off, because that's where those fish are sitting there and staging. So don't always let the dock talk fool you. Oh yeah.
Get up here, over the top of the tree.
Exit?
Yeah, you might want to exit. I'm on 12 pounds, so. Oh. Yeah.
There you go.
There we go. Now, same thing for offshore right here. Fishing these trees. It's a nice chunky little fish, nice, low 3s probably, but nice heavy fish. Another pre-spawn fish right out here in these trees. A lot of guys are thinking, oh, we're gonna switch to a post-spawn pattern. We're still catching fish moving up. We can catch fish going out. Right now the tide's up. We can be up beating up the bank, but we're out here offshore showing you guys you can get them out here, catch them in these trees. It's just a Delta drop shot rig right here with the EWG hook, Texas rig worm. Fishing that offshore grass, fishing that deep grass when the tide drops out, just out from your spots that you normally catch them. Well, Andy, I think I had a good time, man. Bite was a little bit tough today, but
yeah, we put some solid fish in the boat. We got them in a couple of different ways and a couple of different areas, just bouncing around. One here, one there, and that's kind of how it goes. You get into an area and you figure out what those fish are doing, and then take a look around you and go, okay, where's that offshore stuff, that Cooch and Nick character we're talking about?
Yeah.
And if they pay attention, you'll find it.
Yeah. That's it, guys. Appreciate you guys watching. InformativeFisherman.com, CoochesFishing.com. Come out here with Andy, guys. You can learn a heck of a lot. And try to do something advanced. Learn this offshore stuff. Learn something that's not easy to do or easy to stumble into. Andy will teach you how to do it. Come out here and have a blast. Appreciate you watching.